Hey guys, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Black Millennial Wife. I'm Jet.
I'm Avis, and we're going to start off with our Black business highlight. So the business that I would like to highlight is Mary Lou's Closet. So this is a consignment shop online for plus size, curvy, I'm going to say curvy women, not plus size. One of the taglines on the website is a curated collection for girls who embrace their curves. So it's super affordable clothing, really interesting pieces like vintage pieces, statement pieces. She has a little bit of everything. So formal, in the middle, casual, all of that. So you can find the shop online at her website. It's shop@marylous.com. You can follow her on Instagram or Facebook, and it's Mary Lou's Closet. So go check her out. Super affordable prices. You'll get some good pieces that complement your curves.
Okay, so I am going to share with you guys Yenisi body butter. It is a all-natural shea and cocoa butter that I specifically use on my eczema. I got this at the farmer's market. They can also be found online at yenisibeauty.com. It smells good. It feels good. It keeps me from itching when my skin is really dry. It's 100% organic, 100% vegan, and cruelty-free. So I definitely recommend using this, especially after the shower when that harsh water hits your skin. It definitely does the job, and it is natural, so you know what's going on your skin, which you know me and Avis are super big about. So try it out if you're in the market for some body butter, some hand cream, something for your feet, or anything. It's absolutely magnificent. So, this is an important topic to us simply because we want ladies who may not be married, dating, engaged, or whatever, to not put themselves in circumstances in which they are either just marrying just to marry or dating somebody and giving too much of themselves away. And one of the things that we talked about in thinking of this topic is how we as women can put somebody in a husband role before they're actually a husband. And I think that does nothing but a disservice to us as women, as God-fearing women, and as future wives. Because obviously the relationship that you are in at that moment prior to becoming a wife, you have no union under God in that circumstance. And so we as women, I know I have put myself in certain situations in relationships where I am giving a man privileges that he should not have. And that's not even just thinking about sex. That's in regards to decision making, in regards to how I run my life, how I move, how all of those things. I know specifically for me, I have been in a controlling relationship, and instead of seeing that as a red flag, I saw that as more of he's looking out for me. He's just silly things. He's protective, or things like that. He's never hit me, he never did anything like that, but he was definitely controlling my life. It even got to a point where he said, like, you're spending too much time with your family. Like, if you have free time, you need to be with me. And I wouldn't want that from my husband, and definitely should not be receiving that from some guy I'm dating or even engaged to, because you are not my husband. And it's something that we have heard in situations. It's something I have seen in other people, and it's a dangerous place to be.
The first thing that comes to mind is, a previous relationship that I was in where I wanted him to be my husband so bad. I was for sure I was going to have his look. See, I was going to call him ugly babies. I'm not going to do that to that man. But I was going to have his little baby. I was positive There was nothing that was going to stop me from marrying that man. And I gave him everything I had in me as a young woman to keep him interested, to keep him coming back to me after we didn't broke up and had a situation and all of that, and how much of myself I gave to him that he did not deserve. He deserved none of it. He deserved none of it. And so, it's just so, if I'm blessed enough to have a daughter, I am going to take so seriously teaching her about her worth, about what she deserves and what she don't deserve. And not, my parents definitely did what they could, everything that they could to teach me about my worth. And, you don't have to accept that and da 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 da. But I've talked in previous episodes about how I lost my parents at a young age. So I didn't get some lessons I think that could have helped me maybe realize the reality of what was happening before I got to a certain stage in my development and my maturity. And so, how much more could I have loved my husband from the beginning? How much more could I have given my husband from the beginning to deepen our relationship and our bond that I gave away for the free to this boy who
Didn't deserve it.
didn't deserve an ounce from me? And so, it makes me so grateful for my husband, on a large level, because he is never taken from me.
Yeah.
He's requested of me. He has asked me to be a better or do better or think differently, but he has never taken from me in a way that he was not able to back up with some biblical, you know what I'm saying? To support in a healthy way. And I just think about the relationships that I've had where I have just been taken from over and over, just emotionally just taken from. And that person didn't replenish nothing. And what they took was from such a selfish place. They just wanted to have, I've had a controlling relationship myself. I remember being in high school in health class, and they had that day where they talked about how to tell if you're in an abusive relationship. These are the signs, you need to know if. And some of the things that they mentioned on this list, I was just like, oh, he do that? He do that too? Yeah, he did that yesterday. Yeah. And I remember going up to the teacher at the end of the class, and I was just like, but couldn't it be love? Dang, I haven't thought about that in decades probably, but I remember going up to her and saying, that's just the way that he loves me. And I thought that I wanted that kind of love, that obsessive, controlling, I thought that was real love. But no, honey, that's abuse. You are being emotionally and mentally abused. And so I just really hope that if I have a daughter, that I can teach her that that's not okay. And God does not want her to put up with that to prove herself worthy of a husband. And I think that's what I thought. He didn't drug me through the mud, but I'm still here. I'm still standing by him. I'm his ride or die, whatever foolishness I was thinking at the time. I'm proving myself to him that I'm worthy of him to be my husband. And that was such bull. That was such crap. And it's just amazing how, being reflective on those times, I was just really lost. I was lost. That's all it is. I was just a lost individual.
Yeah, I think one thing that stands out to me when you said proving yourself, there is a God-fearing way to prove yourself worthy, and then there is the other way, which is what you're speaking of is the negative way. I can prove myself worthy by setting boundaries and letting you know I'm not interested in having sex before we get married. I want us to be in a union before we decide to have sex. I'm proving myself that I am worthy of that. And if you want to be with me, then that's something that you're going to feed into. You're going to support me in that. So there are healthy ways to prove yourself worthy of being a spouse. And being that ride or die chick to some dude that's calling you a girlfriend, if he's calling you that, is not the way to do that at all. And another thing that stood out to me is when you said this guy was just taking from you, and being in a healthy relationship now, like we can see the difference between those things. And one thing that I love about my husband is that he fills my tank. That was one of the things that we learned in pre-marriage counseling, is that you have to fill, in a book I read, I can't remember what book too, but you have to fill each other's love tank. You have to fill each other's tank in general, because you can't just ask somebody to make withdrawals, and then never refill it. And that's what I'm going to say for me, that's what I did in that relationship, was all I was doing was making withdrawals, or he was doing was making withdrawals, and then never filled my tank. But in any situation, I'm the one that's doing something wrong in the relationship. But and that's not healthy. If the person that you're with is not encouraging you, is not filling your tank, is not lifting you up, is not revering you as the queen and God-fearing woman that you are, that is not a healthy relationship. And let me venture to say, you would be crazy to think that if he decided to say, will you marry me, that he would change. If he's not lifting you up now, he's not going to lift you up when y'all get married, because then you add everything else that comes with marriage, and none of that's going to change. You won't even be able to make him change. If he changes for a week, I promise you, he will go back to being the same person, because that's who he always was. And that's even the same thing with for my husband. Like, no matter what, if there's anything in him that I want to change, I know I can't change it. If it's something that I want for him to get better at or whatever, let me say that, not change. I'd say if it was something I want him to improve upon or get better at, I can't make him do that. I have to pray to God to ask him to do those things. And so why put yourself in a situation with a man that is not making you feel like the queen and the woman of God that you are in a dating relationship, and then say, boom, I'm gonna get married and he's gonna be perfect. He's gonna talk to me respectfully. It's okay. He's only done that 2 times. That's not how that works.
And I'm just, so thinking when you said it wouldn't change once you got married. If I had not allowed the Lord to intervene in my life and being stuck on, he is my husband, regardless of if the Lord is telling me he ain't, I know for a fact I would be divorced right now. Not a shadow of doubt in my mind. I would be divorced. We would have been miserable. And Lord forbid a child be put in the scenario. Jesus be some spermicide, because I am so grateful that I never had a baby by this man or any of the men that I've ever dealt with. It ain't just the one particular one I'm thinking about. All of them were pretty trash. It would be like all of them were kind of not great.
Absolutely. Because our focus and our minds at that time was not on what God wants for me. And I know specifically for me, it was simply, I want to be married. Whether it was somebody I dated a long time ago or whatever the case was, I always wanted to be married. And so, boom, let me do whatever I need to do to make sure this man can see me as his future wife. And I mean, and all of those situations, it was just like, thank you, God. Thank you. Because there could have been many situations where I just stuck it out and stayed there because that's what I wanted to do, because I knew that was going to get me what I wanted in the end, which was to be a wife. So I urge women to assess the relationship that you are in. And if this man is not feeding into you, if he is not filling your tank on a consistent basis, you need to reassess the relationship that you're in. Because if somebody is just taking from you, that's not healthy. And that's not a sign of something that's going to end up in a good position when you have all of these other things that come into your relationship when you get married.
Yeah, that is so true.
How would you say that relationship or any other relationship um and all that you went through impacted your marriage?
I think it's twofold. So on one side, I think that for a long time, I think I thought that I could not love my husband 100% because the 100% got spent on all whoever, right? And I was treated, I think, in ways that damaged how I felt love should be. And so I was just like, I remember thinking I can never love somebody 100% after this relationship has failed. And so it took me a really, really long time to be able to give myself to my husband completely emotionally, to give myself to him, physically. Like it really took me a long time to get on that. And on the other side of that, I'm grateful that I learned those lessons in like how a man is not supposed to treat you. Like it makes me more so grateful for who Philip is right now as my husband, because all those things, of my past relationships, and I haven't had a whole lot of relationships. I was always the person that was in a long-term relationship. I feel like since I was probably 15, my shortest relationship was probably like a year. So like, I had a lot of experience in long-term relationships with people that were still finding themselves. Like, I don't want it to sound like all those guys were just like the devil. There wasn't.
Right.
We were both very young, finding ourselves, trying to deal with baggage from deep-rooted issues. Like, and I'm certain that the men that they were at the time is not the men that they are now. I'm hopeful that they are not. But I'm grateful for those lessons, and it makes me more grateful for my husband and who he is now, and all those things, those like those sunspots in my mind, those things that stick out about past relationships that were destructive and disrespectful and borderline abusive. Philip has never done any of those things. Never done any of those things. Philip don't even raise his voice to me. Philip don't even curse at me. Like something so simple that I was so used to in these past relationships, that don't even cross his mind to treat me like that. And so I think it's lessons from it all. Could I have probably spared myself a few lessons if I had like been a better Christian? Sure. But
Absolutely. We all could have. I mean, and for me, I would say that I was very angry. And it wasn't angry in the sense of just like I hated the world or, anything like that, or hated men or whatever. It was just like if something happened, my instant reaction is anger. Like I was the screamer, the yeller, like I'm ready to go toe to toe. And just like you said, Trey is not that guy either. Like, I don't even know what his voice would sound like if he raised it. Um, and I think that it was because of the past relationships that I had been in that had made me that way. Because any relationship that I can think of, it was just toe to toe, toe to toe, toe to toe. We argue, we argue, we argue. And so that had just become who I was in a relationship. Now, anybody just seeing me and interacting with me wouldn't know that. But when I'm in a relationship, that's what it was. And I had taken that on. And so when I first got married, that was who I was. And it was rough. It was rough, especially for my husband, because he's just not that person. Nor did he grow up around that or anything. So that was something I'm grateful that through counseling, I learned that I can't do that. That's not a healthy way to communicate. And unfortunately, all of those past relationships did that. So I think that's another reason that we have to be so careful with who we give ourselves to emotionally, physically, all of those things, because we take on things that are not of us. And I never, and I say that very, very sincerely, because growing up, my mom used to be a yeller. Like if I got in trouble, she would yell. And I remember, she remembers, my dad remembers. I had a conversation with my mom as a little girl. I may have been like 8 years old. And I was like, Mommy, I don't like it when you yell. And so I've never liked that. I didn't like when my dad didn't communicate with me that way. And so my mom had to learn how to communicate with me in a different way. And so I know for that reason, it was never who I genuinely was as a person. That was put on me in those past relationships. And then I brought that into my marriage. And I couldn't imagine the damage it would have done to my husband, to whether making him not even want to communicate with me if I just continued that behavior. And so then we put more work on ourselves of saying like, okay, well, I got to figure out how to learn how to communicate again.
So when we talk about giving ourselves away, I think that goes hand in hand with trying to make somebody fit the husband role when they naturally do not. In past relationships, I thought that I needed to act like a wife to prove my loyalty, to prove my love, and all the other kind of stuff. I don't need to be cooking you dinner at 16. Like, what was I thinking? What was I doing? I don't need to allow you to dictate how I'm moving, where I'm going, what I'm doing, to prove to you, not in the dating phase, that I am worthy of marriage, right? And so I remember something, I think when my mom passed away, something just clicked. Like it was just like, I have to be grown now. I have to be grown because I have to be the adult for myself. And so I don't need to be led in the ways that I had allowed myself to be led. And it was one particular instance. I had just got a new car. I was real cute in my little Mazda, okay, sitting in school. It was when we was back at school, freshman year. And I remember this particular person said, well, I don't want people in your car. And I was like, the old Avis would have been like, oh, okay, I guess I just won't. Like, okay. The new Avis was like, excuse me, I could have swore I paid for this car by myself. Like, I'm grown. And If you knew me in college, you knew that that was my tagline for a few years. I'm grown. You're not about to tell me who I can and cannot have in my car that I paid for with my money. And that was like, I think, the beginning of the end of my thought process, that I had to be obedient to anybody, basically, who did not make the commitment to me that like my family made. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm gonna be here for you unconditionally, like, and proved it. So I wish that I could talk to my younger self and say, hey, baby, just leave. Like, just leave the relationship. Don't deal with that person. Don't deal with that situation. They showing you who they are. Move on around. And so it just kind of is what it is. I'm grateful for the lessons, and thinking back, it just makes me laugh at myself. But
Absolutely. I mean, two things that stood out to me. When people show you who they are, believe them. And I'm saying that specifically to our demographic of women. When people show you who they are, believe them. There's no reason for a second, third, fourth, and fifth chance. Whoever he has shown you that he is, if he showed his tail, he's a tail shower. Period. He ain't nothing else but a tail. If it quacks like a duck, it's a duck. So if he show his tail, he a tail shower. Believe that. And do not think that there's something else lying underneath that. Nobody has time to try to fix people. So stop right now. So some takeaways for me are, I think really what the last thing I've said is, because I've said that to so many people, and I wish I could say it to myself in my past relationships, is just when people show you who they are, believe them. My husband has always been consistent at who he is. And there are disappointing times that come and everything, but no matter what, he's still the same person. There's never an opportunity that comes up or a chance where, even if I've made him mad, that he's going to become this outrageous person that I don't know, because he's who he is 1000% of the time. And that's the type of man that you want to marry. Not somebody who you can never know whether they're going to be person A or person B in a situation. So if I had to say anything, I would definitely just say that. Believe people when they show you who they are.
I would say that my takeaway is not to compromise yourself or believe that you have to deal with a certain amount of nonsense to prove yourself worthy of marriage, to prove yourself worthy of a ring and that level of commitment. A lot of us make that mistake, and it's, to some extent, I think, developmental opportunity, but you deserve everything that the Lord says you can have, and that don't come with strings attached, so just be sure of who you are as a woman, and deal with people that are worth dealing with.
Absolutely. I totally agree. All right, so let's go ahead and wrap it up and share how we won at adulting this week. So we all want to be adults. We all are in a hurry to grow up, and then it comes and it's just like, when do the bills stop? Can I get a break? But it never comes. So we want to celebrate when we do things to achieve being the best adults, the best women that we can possibly be. So for myself, quarantine was not nice to my hips. And I have acknowledged that and accepted that. Even though people like Avis want to roll their eyes and cock their neck when I say it. Listen, I got the measuring tape out and I stepped on the scale to get the numbers, and the numbers don't lie. Okay. So your girl is trying to get back on track. I'm on a 30-day plan. And I am basically just getting back to what my lifestyle looked like prior to quarantine. I've always worked out. I've always tried to take care of myself, but I snacked a little bit too much and laid on the couch a little bit too much. So I'm on a 30-day plan to get back on track. And if the numbers go down and the inches come off, then I'm grateful, but I know that I'm healthy overall. So I'm just trying to continue doing that. And so I started that journey, and it's been going good. I've been, listen, y'all, my hair is doing its own thing, and I had to make it work for the episode, but pray for me on that because I've been working out outside and it's out of control. Listen, my sisters understand. So yes, I've been doing that and I'm proud of myself. I'm going to keep pushing and doing the best that I can.
So I won at adulting this week when my husband and I got into an argument, and instead of beating a dead horse and nagging or doing the most and trying to win the argument, I went on a walk. I got my workout clothes on, I got my earbuds, and I went on a long walk. And I called a good friend of mine and I vented. I'm sure if you live in my neighborhood and you saw me walking down the street that day, you would think that I was crazy because I was going off. But it's better for me to go off to that friend that I trust, that is going to help me understand another viewpoint and talk to me biblically about where I should be coming from, as opposed to saying something crazy to my husband. So that's how I wanted to help him.
Let's all give Avis a round of applause.
Thank you.
Yes, that is very genuine. I'm very proud of you because I know that is a step for you. So congratulations. I am proud of you, sis. Listen, thank you guys so much for tuning in to another episode of the Black Millennial Wife.
So don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, all of those good things. Let us know in the comments how you identified ways that you maybe gave parts of yourself to previous relationships that did not work out or did not deserve it. I feel like Jet and myself are not the only two ladies that share that story, so we would love to hear from you. Be on the lookout next week on Friday for a new episode, and thank you again for watching the Black Millennial Wife.
Yep. Bye.